So starting initially in the first phase of the pool building process will be your first initial meeting will be with me and with the salesman on the job. And we pretty much go through the scope of work, let you know what we're gonna do, what's all included. If you have any questions about how the process works, anything maybe you misunderstood in the initial process, we'll clear up. And also on that same day, if it's a new pool, we do initial layout. So we lay out the pool in the ground so that you actually see what you're actually gonna get. And then probably a couple of days later, we will actually come out and do the excavation, which is initially your first process of the pool building process of a new pool. If it's on a remodel, of course, it just depends on what you have on the scope of work, either pump, plaster, tile work, coping, deck work. But on the actual initial new pool, what you actually do excavation. Then the next day we come back and actually do the steel. And then the next day after that, we come out and do the stub out, which is just the initial stub out of the plumbing. So we just set the skimmers, set the autofill, we set your returns, set your drains. And then if you have any water features, then of course we do those as well. Then after that, we shoot the gunite. So once we get the gunite shot on the actual pool, we let it sit for at least 5 to 7 days, just depending on when is the next actual process going on the pool for the tile and coping. Now on those 5 to 7 days while that is drying, what we try to do is initially try to get the full plumbing done after we do the stub out and the gunite, do the full plumbing, get the equipment set. Then after that, our electricians come in, get their thing set, get the automation set, wire up the pumps, get power to it, ground everything, put a 360 bond loop around the pool, which pretty much protects the shell of the pool so nobody can actually get shocked in the pool. Then from there, we do the tile and coping. So what I call it, that is like the beauty of the project, which is more most people get excited about. You see your stone, you see your tile, you see your actual toe tile if you get those, and you actually see your water features get built at that point. Once we get that done, then we move on to the actual decking of it, so which is your concrete portion of the project. So it just depends on how much concrete you want, or some people do pavers at that point. So it just depends on the typical kind of decking that you want, either concrete or pavers, just depending on brick pavers, travertine pavers. You can also get porcelain, so it just depends on the material that you pick at that time. Okay, and then once I actually get done with the decking, then we go ahead and do the plaster in the pool, which is your actual color that goes on the inside. So the first day is the actual plaster install. Once they get all the fittings cut off for the pipe, they stick those in for your actual returns and your main drains, get all those set. Then from there, the next day, they actually come back after the plaster is already dried in there and do an acid wash, which actually brings out the beauty in the actual pool. So all the plaster dust and a couple of the imperfections that you have in it get clears up with the acid wash. Now, once the acid wash is done that day, the same day, they stick the water hose in the pool, let the pool start filling up. What we always recommend customers do is pretty much get a brush, the pole that we actually provide you. So we have a long pole and an actual combo brush that we actually provide to the customer. We actually have them brush it down at least twice a day for the first 2 weeks to actually help the actual curing process of the plaster. So once this is doing that, which is within the same week of when we're starting up the pool, which that initially takes by 3 to 5 visits depending on the size of the pool and also the water chemistry coming out of the tap of your actual water at the house. So once the startup is done, we actually come back either during that week of the startup or after the startup. We actually do the spray deck, or if you have pavers, then we just do the cleanup, get everything graded, put everything fenced back, throw all the trash away, make sure everything is nice and clean, then we're going ahead and good to go from there. Now, once we're done with pretty much everything of the pool building process, which is after the startup, the cleanup, grading and everything, we do a pool school with the customer, let them know how everything works automation wise, pump wise, lights, any questions they have about how the pool works. Then from there, do a final walkthrough, let the customer know that we're done. They can give us a review, talk to them about anything they have questions wise that we're being done. Pretty much we're done from there.